So can we talk for a few moments about One Piece? Because it's been something that I've wanted to talk about for a few weeks now, ever since Wano was coming to an end. And hopefully you guys will humor me and hear me out on the arc of Wano. Was the Wano arc in One Piece good or a straight up disappointment? This is a question the community has been asking themselves for a few weeks now, ever since Kaido was officially defeated by Luffy. And so today, I want to dedicate some time to line out some things that this arc did, Wano did in general. Some of the good, some of the bad, some of the ugly, some of the great, and just really kind of piece together why some would think that this arc is really great, and why some would think this arc is just straight up a disappointment. And so let's go over the very structure of Wano itself. So Wano is easily one of the longest arcs in One Piece. 4 years, in fact. It's been 4 years that we've been in this arc in the manga, not counting the anime, just talking strictly about the manga. We have been 4 years deep into this arc. And if we're not counting just the 4 years, we can actually theoretically go back 10 plus years to just the overall setup to get to the Wano arc. Because honestly, the whole legacy or the saga to take down, Kaido has begun since Punk Hazard. Ever since Law and Luffy made their alliance and then they, said, yeah, we will take down one of the emperors, aka Kaido. So we can theoretically track, the entire saga of this story back to then of when Kaido was set up to be defeated in these past few weeks ago. And so when you think about it, there's been a lot of time dedicated to Wano, at least Kaido in general, and so because of how long it's been, obviously people's expectations are definitely heightened. A lot of people were looking forward to Wano before Wano ever came out, and a lot of people were excited to see how Luffy and everyone else would be able to bring someone down like Kaido, that is an emperor. And up to that very point, before, we saw Big Mom in action, before we saw Kaido in action, our really only glimpse at an emperor at that point was obviously Whitebeard in Marineford, and our expectations of an emperor was definitely high. I mean, what Whitebeard did in Marineford was just insane. I mean, no one can refute the fact of just how insane Whitebeard was in that war, and he was weakened and ill and sick and very old, so it puts in perspective how strong a Yonko would be. So it makes sense that people's expectations for Luffy and everyone else to challenge Kaido, to challenge Big Mom, would be at an all-time high. So once again, expectations make a lot of sense. There was a lot of expectations from the very beginning because of that, the way Oda just wrote the Yonkos in the first place. And so we had the gradual, slow build up to that very point. For instance, we had, Punk Hazard, we had, Luffy find out more about Smile or Devil Fruits in general, take down Caesar, use Caesar as a bargaining chip against Doffy, and then eventually bring down Doffy and his factories, and then eventually they would go to, Zou, find out more about what's going on with the samurai and all that and the minks, and then they would head to Wano. And there was a lot of setup. I mean, we also have the Big Mom stuff too that I didn't mention. I mean, we have Whole Cake Island, that kind of set up Big Mom and the relationship of Kaido and Big Mom together. So there's a lot that's happened basically, and a lot of gradual build up to this very point. And so Wano arrives, and obviously, like I said, people's expectations for Wano was insanely high, because once again, people have heard about Wano ever since Thriller Bark. Ever since, Zoro had his fight with the undead samurai, ever since that scene, we've kind of had the build-up of Wano, maybe even earlier than that. But I think that was the earliest time I think we've ever had a name drop of Wano in One Piece. So it was an incredible amount of time. And so people's expectations were probably on the same level as Elbaf, the giant island that many of us want to see one day, where Usopp goes there and gets to see the giants. That is something many of us are looking forward to one day. And so it makes sense, once again, expectations are incredibly high. So Wano begins, and it's a beautiful beginning. It starts off with a homage to ancient Japan, ancient Japanese culture, a lot of mythology. It's a very beautiful arc, and there's a massive art style shift somewhat when we enter the Wano arc, and that's not even including the beauty of the anime that we have seen recently. And so the manga definitely had a really good start for Wano. I mean, expectations were going high, especially after rolling off, just the tracks from Katakuri and all that, because the Katakuri Luffy stuff was incredible. So people were just excited to see what Oda would do next. So we get all the setup at the beginning of Wano. We get Kaido, we get the numbers, we get, Queen and King, we get the stuff with Jack, we get the stuff with the samurai building up their forces, we get to see all these iconic characters and stuff that we have known to love finally on this island to challenge Kaido. We get to see Kaido's drunken rampage in dragon form. We get to see the man literally one-shot Luffy and bring him down, throw Luffy into a prison cell. We got to see the setup of just Kid, how Kid, many were wondering where Kid was for a very long time. We get to see Kid. We get, a lot of setup with the supernovas, with Hawkins and all that, Apu and all that. There was a lot of build-up for those different scenes. We have stuff with, the Smile Fruit. We have, the stuff with just the overall culture and the island and how it's taken over by Kaido and how destructive Kaido has been to the very island's inhabitants and the land itself, to also getting to see a little bit of Zoro, characterization and development, getting to find out more about, maybe some of his sword styles and about his heritage, etc. A lot of build up to that. We got some cool things with just, the samurai, slowly trying to challenge, Kaido, to getting Odin's backstory, to getting a little bit more on Roger and Whitebeard, finding out about Laugh-Tell, getting a little bit more on Momo. There was a lot of setup. Yamato, Ace, the list can go on. There is so much stuff that Wano had jam-packed into it that it's ridiculous. And that's not even counting like Big Mom. Big Mom was in the arc. Somewhat of her crew was in the arc. Sadly, Katakuri wasn't, but Big Mom was in the arc. We got stuff with, awakenings and stuff, like with Law, Kid, and also Luffy, Gear 5. We got, just the overall, world now taking notice that Luffy is no longer, just some average random pirate or whatever. He is now challenging emperors itself and potentially going to become one or even better than them. And obviously the conclusion of, the arc certifies Luffy as pretty much very close to becoming the Pirate King. The overall end of the journey is very, very close. I think all of us can see it coming, especially with the conclusion of Wano. A lot of expectations, a lot of setup, a lot of build-up. We got the stuff with deaths as well. Like, you can even look from the latest chapter that came out of One Piece that Hawkins could potentially be dead. Now, obviously, this isn't completely confirmed, but you could assume that he might have died in the latest chapter. We also have to talk about some of the worst moments of the arc. We got Kinemon and how somehow he kept coming back and he didn't fully die, to him splitting in half with Kaido crushing him, to also seeing, stuff like, Luffy continuously getting back up and fighting, even though it was kind of clarified with Gear 5 and him being kind of like a different type of devil fruit. There's a lot of things, a lot of good, a lot of bad. We got, Big Mom's amnesia that happened in the arc and all that, and how that really didn't go anywhere. We have some great stuff with Robin. She has a great fight. We have stuff with Sanji and some really good character development, characterization of him calling for Robin. We have, the King fight with Zoro and finding out more about King's people. We have Queen and Sanji. Like I said, there is a lot. There is absolutely a lot in this arc. There is so much, in fact, that I cannot begin to name everything that happened within the arc. So clearly, the arc, in terms of content, it is insane. There is so much content within Wano. And so, theoretically, when you look at Wano, thanks to it being one of the longest arcs, I think we can all agree that it is probably easily one of the best arcs of One Piece, and one of the worst arcs. And the reason for that is because of just how much is within the overall arc. And so, let's talk about that. Is Wano bloated? That is a question. Is Wano bloated with too much content? Did Oda try to cram too much into the arc to meet people's expectations, and that caused the overall disappointment of people's expectations of Wano? That's a good theory. That's a good way to probably look at it. Maybe people's expectations they're disappointed because there was too much content within the arc. There is a lot of different plot threads and stuff that just never were fully explored. Like, they were going somewhere, and then Oda quickly just takes the tracks a completely different direction, and we go down a different path. Like, Big Mom's amnesia. That's a good one. This is one of the sticking points of, Wano for me that I personally don't like. And I want to talk about that. Now, you're probably thinking I don't like Big Mom having amnesia. No, in fact, you'd be wrong. If you go back to my chapter reviews I did on One Piece at that time, you'll see that I was very happy that Oda was giving Big Mom amnesia. And the reason for it, even if it was a lazy plot point to make her lose her memories and potentially work with Luffy and them, I was like, this could, be really good to explore Big Mom's character, to explore her past, allow her to remember what she did in the past to her group of friends, her family pretty much that she ate. And it could have led to a lot of character development and to some really emotional moments for Big Mom and really build her up. And then seeing her eventually gain her memories back to fight Luffy, or maybe even help Luffy bring down Kaido, would have been a very amazing moment for the entirety of Wano. It would have been incredible if we would have went down that direction. And I feel like in some way, Oda wanted to go that way. I feel like Oda, in some way, he wanted to go that way with Big Mom, but he decided some way to go against it, to take a different direction. Because suddenly, as soon as Big Mom is, outlived her usefulness with her amnesia and breaking Luffy out of prison pretty much, she gains her memories back and that's about it. And then we have Big Mom and Kaido working together. And it feels like it was so slapped on when you really think about it, because, like, when you look at Whole Cake Island as a structure, okay, the arc previously before Wano, Whole Cake Island's main antagonist technically was Katakuri, but obviously Big Mom was a figure within the arc, and she was definitely a huge obstacle that we could clearly see that, the Straw Hats weren't completely ready for. And when you have the ending of Katakuri's fight, he's like, will you come back to defeat her one day? Basically, Big Mom. And Luffy says yes. And it kind of set up for the future of the series that Luffy would come back to Whole Cake Island, or sometime in the future, he would challenge Big Mom after Kaido and bring her down. But obviously, Big Mom was brought down in Wano alongside of Kaido. Not just one emperor, but two emperors fell down from their thrones and, is no longer probably emperors or considered emperors anymore. And it's a very big shock because I don't think Oda probably ever had the intention of bringing Big Mom down alongside of Kaido. I don't truly believe that was his thought process going in, at least the way it went down in Wano. I feel like something changed along that path, and that's why I feel like the whole amnesia stick that happened within Wano was good and bad. It was definitely something that showed that maybe Wano was just too big and too high in expectations, and Oda couldn't possibly focus enough time on, let's say, Big Mom to really develop Kaido, and that's a thing to talk about. So like I said, Wano is a big arc. It's gigantic. Like I said, I've already labeled a lot of stuff that I can just remember on the top of my head, but there's so much I know for a fact I'm forgetting and not even mentioning, because there's too much content within Wano. And because of how big the arc was, I don't think he was properly able to dive in and give character development and characterization to Big Mom like he wanted. Because when you look at just Big Mom throughout the arc, she's a joke. She's a straight up joke, like she is. And it's sad because I want to keep it real. I like Big Mom more than Kaido. I 100% like Big Mom more than Kaido. And the reason for that is because from the brief little details we got from her in Whole Cake Island. In fact, I think we got more of just Big Mom in general with her character than we did with Kaido throughout all of Wano. Wano technically was Kaido's arc. That's what I'm trying to say, is that I feel like Oda should not have incorporated Big Mom into the arc, because he didn't do much with her. And the stuff he did with her, it kind of undermined her very character, made her seem literally like a joke throughout the arc. Yes, she was strong, but she still seemed like a joke. You had people throwing her to the side, amnesia, and, just kicking her and distracting her, just different things like that. It turned a Yonko into a literal laughingstock. And then Kaido, let's talk about him. Kaido as a character, I don't hate, okay? I want to make sure I clarify that. I think Kaido is a really cool character, design-wise, everything. The problem I have with Kaido is that, as I talked about in my chapter reviews I did recently, Kaido, he lacks a lot of depth. Like, there is some depth there if you really want to go looking at it. But Kaido lacks what every single other antagonist up to this very point has. A good backstory. Not a tearjerker backstory, no. Not a backstory to make you really emotional for them, but just a backstory that really makes you fully understand them. But when we look at Kaido at the end of Wano, all we really get from him, honestly, is that he's a soldier. He likes to fight. And yeah, that's very simple, and sometimes you don't need to have the most complex villains like Doflamingo that we had in One Piece, but At the same time, Kaido, like I said, has been built up for 10 plus years. And he literally is just a straight up Dragon Ball Z villain. That's exactly what he is. Like, you cannot tell me, if you really take a hard look and put aside your bias, that Kaido isn't straight up a Dragon Ball Z villain. He just wants to fight. That's it. He wants a good fight. He wants to die in a fight, etc. He just wants a good fight. That's exactly what he is. And there's nothing wrong with being simplistic at all. There is nothing wrong with that. You could do a really good story with a simplistic villain or antagonist. But the point is that Kaido, emotionally, I don't think a lot of people were able to fully connect with him. That's what I think, because of how he was brought down in the end, to just his overall motivations and what he was doing, etc. Because all you really get with the brief flashback we get of his childhood is that he was waiting for someone to defeat him, and they would be Joy Boy, which aka Luffy, and that's about it. That's really, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty, really about it. And it's kind of messed up, honestly, because I feel like Kaido just had so much more to his character that potentially was planned. And that's why I'm saying, Wano is such a big arc, I feel like there just wasn't... Oda was spread too thin, with too much content, and he could not dive into Kaido as properly as he wanted to. Or maybe he just wanted to wrap up the arc and get into the next stuff. Who really knows? But, one other thing to really dive into is the fact that despite, obviously, the negativities around certain elements of the arc, there is a lot of good. Like I said, the Robin stuff is definitely one of the big highlights for me in the arc. I am so happy that Robin got such a good representation with a fight, because for a very long time now, fans of One Piece have wanted a Robin fight. A really good Robin fight, because we don't really get them. And she actually got a fight, and she did a really good fight. We got, like, a new power from Robin, getting to see her strength, basically accepting her overall demon, basically. I love Robin's fight. It's a really good fight. I mean, it really goes along with Sanji's character really well, him relying on the female crew members, and also him showing a moment of weakness, and it really is a good moment for Sanji as well. I love the overall moments of Wano when it comes to Sanji and Robin. And then Nami had a lot of good moments too, with Zeus, etc., getting to use Zeus, and I know some might not like the fact that Nami has Zeus, but I really love the fact that Nami has Zeus, and she gets to show her strength, and she's no longer really weak anymore. Usopp as well. I mean, we get some really good stuff with a lot of our characters. Jinbei had a good moment with Who's Who. I mean, overall, like I said, there is good. There is so much good. But there is a lot of ugly. Like Kinemon. Kinemon and Orochi. Big characters. And I feel like, if I really want to take a hard look at everything, Kinemon should have died. He should have 100% have died in the arc. Because he was put in a position of peril multiple times to where he should have died. But he didn't. Luffy got KO'd in one hit in Gear 4, hockeyed up at the beginning of the arc. But Kinemon, he survives multiple hits, with Kaido obviously not trying to hold back against him and slamming him to the ground. So the fact that Kinemon survived multiple times is really annoying, because Oda put Kinemon in a situation where he tried to make you assume that Kinemon was going to die. And I don't like that. I don't like that type of tension put on, where you continuously put a character that should already be dead in that same situation over and over again. It feels like false tension, and it loses its overall feeling and weight if you continuously do it throughout the arc. The fake outs, pretty much. And he did that a lot with a lot of characters throughout the entire arc. I mean, so many characters, in fact. And that's what bugs me the most, honestly, is some of the fake outs he continuously did throughout Wano. And on top of that, Orochi and Kanjuro should not have been alive as long as they were. Orochi should have died after Kaido cut his head off. Obviously it makes sense he was alive because of, the devil fruit he had. Fine. Even if I want to look past that. He should have died the second time, but he came back once again, which he overstayed his welcome. He really served no purpose at that point, and Kanjuro creating a fire was only there to add even more level of tension to the arc, and that was really about it. There was nothing really that important with Kanjuro living that long, and so I feel like Kanjuro and Orochi's overall role in the arc lost its meaning and purpose very early on after their first deaths or fake-out deaths, and I feel like they should have stayed dead. That's some ugly of this arc, and then Kinemon as well. Now, obviously, there is some deaths in the arc. I mean, we had 2 characters in the latest chapter declared dead. Very big characters. But it doesn't change the fact, though, that there's other characters that should have died alongside of it. Because this was a war against 2 emperors. So, Yeah, you can't just sweep that under the rug and act like, oh, maybe 2 deaths is just, oh, that's a lot. But it really ain't. I mean, it's 2 freaking emperors. I mean, look what happened in the Whitebeard War. A lot happened. So, then we got to get into the stuff with, like, some other good stuff, though. We got some good stuff, like, Green Bull. Green Bull appears in the latest chapter, and he's flying into, Wano. We don't really know what's going on there, but Green Bull is appearing, and, we're finally getting to see the first look at this admiral that we've been waiting to see for, holy crap, like, maybe 10 years now? So it's been a long time coming since, we've heard about Green Bull, and we're finally going to get to see him. Which, by the way, speaking of that type of stuff, we also got to talk about the fact that Robin wasn't in the latest chapter. Now, I could be wrong about this, pointed out if I'm wrong, but I believe Robin wasn't in the chapter whatsoever. She was missing, which basically implies that she might be getting abducted by the Navy, Green Bull, etc., and we're going to have a whole Robin rescue arc once again, which I don't think we need. But obviously, we're at the end of One Piece. One Piece is reaching closer and closer to the end. We can see the end in sight, and obviously the poneglyphs are the main importance of the story at this moment. And so Robin is definitely a key figure for the rest of the story. So Robin theoretically could be captured. So that is some food for thought. Now, Yamato, she becomes a crew member, which is another good. I am so happy Yamato is a crew member of the Straw Hat Pirates, because she's a good character. She's a really good character. Sadly, though, I feel like there should have been more of her overall role within the arc, because ever since her 1v1 with Kaido, she was just running around with Momo, and that's about it. And I felt like there should have definitely been more of Yamato's role within the arc after that 1v1, but we didn't really get much of her. But regardless, I am very happy that Yamato joined the crew and that she's going to be a part of the crew, because we need a very strong powerhouse female character a part of Luffy's crew, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see more content from her. But yeah, overall, let's ask the question. Was Wano a disappointing arc? Was it a good arc? It's a bit of both. It is 100% a bit of both. There's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Personally, my feelings on the arc, I give it a solid 7. A solid 7, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. That doesn't mean it's bad. I know people like to think 7s mean it's outright awful, but I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the arc could have been a lot better maybe if it was more condensed. I feel like that was the problem. That Oda was spread too thin with too much going on. And he tried to meet too many people's expectations with just the build-up, and obviously it fell flat for a lot. Yeah, but that's my thoughts, that's my 2 cents. If you enjoy my brief little dialogue on One Piece, let me know if you enjoyed the video, because I don't know how many are going to continue watching to this point, but I wanted to talk about my overall feelings of One Piece after the latest arc. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate everyone. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.